I just wanted to go on this little baby rant about Rachel Zegler. She's the young woman that was cast as Snow White. Not because she can't keep her mouth shut. I'm totally fine with with the celebrities telling me what their politics are, who they're voting for, et cetera, et cetera. We've become accustomed to that. But because she has this underlying anger and hatred in her that always has to take it like one step too far.
If I'm Bob Iger, you know what we're doing? Emergency meeting. We're putting Snow White on hold for 2 years, and guess what?
Smart.
Pay her a couple $1,000,000, go away. We're going to bring another person to play this role.
Imagine taking one of the most iconic fairy tales in history, only to watch it become a flashpoint for controversy that shakes an entire studio. Sounds dramatic. Wait until you hear how a single actor's influence triggered a corporate firestorm.
And Rachel decides to go on really just a psychopathic, demented rant.
Disney's live-action remakes have a knack for generating buzz good, bad, and everything in between. In recent years, we've seen beloved classics reimagined for new generations, from Beauty and the Beast to Aladdin, yet none of these have caused as much controversy as the new Snow White adaptation, initially announced with high hopes. This film was meant to celebrate Disney's first princess in a modern context. But once rising star Rachel Zegler joined the cast as Snow White and started voicing her strong opinions, cracks began to form. By the time Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, openly admitted that changes to the script were heavily influenced by Zegler's personal convictions, everything was poised for a meltdown. Today, we're diving into how one of Disney's most cherished tales turned into a cautionary tale of corporate missteps, divided audiences, and the unpredictable power of social media.
It's wrong and backwards, and it's not 1937, whatever. That was like her initial spree, and everyone was like, okay, do you want to be Snow White, or do you hate Snow White? Do you want to destroy Snow White?
When Disney first confirmed a live-action Snow White was in development, fans worldwide buzzed with anticipation. After all, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is the jewel in Disney's crown. The movie that started it all back in 1937. The announcement alone sparked questions. How would they tackle the dwarfs? Would the original's musical numbers make a comeback? Which actress would have the honor and the pressure of donning Snow White's iconic red headband?
You've just been living in Hollywood, La La Land for so long that you're just deranged.
Yeah, we're sick of it. We're sick of this bullshit. This is what you're getting. So the more you do this, Disney, Iger, what is this girl's name? Rachel Zegler, whatever her name is. Yes, this is exactly the backlash you're going to get from parents.
Then came Rachel Zegler, fresh off her critically acclaimed debut in West Side Story. She was rising fast in Hollywood's ranks. She had the voice, the youthful energy, and a charismatic screen presence. Disney's hope was to capture lightning in a bottle, an up-and-coming star breathing new life into the classic. At first, fans were cautiously optimistic. If Zegler could bring the same heartfelt energy she did to West Side Story, Snow White might thrive. Yet that optimism began to waver once her public statements on social media and in interviews revealed a distinctly modern and sometimes harsh view of the 1937 classic.
If I'm Bob Iger, you know what we're doing? Emergency meeting. We're putting Snow White on hold for 2 years, and guess what?
Smart.
Pay her a couple $1,000,000, go away. We're going to bring another person to play this role.
A key moment that caught fans off guard was Zegler's dismissive attitude toward the original story, referring to aspects of the film as backwards or outdated. Some people applauded the sentiment, believing that updating a nearly century-old tale was long overdue. Others, however, bristled. They argued that while progress is admirable, ignoring what made Snow White timeless in the first place would risk alienating loyal Disney enthusiasts. And let's not forget that the 1937 film, despite its age, remains a cornerstone of cinematic history.
I think it's fair to say that no one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
That girl, right? So
Yeah.
we have a love affair with a role when you play in a movie. You take that innocence away.
In the weeks leading up to filming, behind-the-scenes rumors started trickling out. Cast and crew members hinted at creative tension on set, partly centered around how to balance the original story's innocence with the so-called modern spin. Reports claimed that Zegler had been a vocal proponent of scrapping certain fairy tale elements in favor of a more socially conscious approach, especially regarding Snow White's relationship dynamics and the dwarf's portrayal. While strong-willed actors are nothing new in Hollywood, it is rare that they hold such an outsized influence on a company as historically guarded as Disney.
There was an in-depth piece, like a behind-the-scenes piece, talking about how they've been in a full meltdown about this girl for a couple of years now.
Bob Iger, Disney's CEO at the time, was juggling numerous projects and controversies, but the Snow White adaptation still ranked high on the studio's priority list. On paper, it had everything: brand recognition, nostalgia, musical potential, and a budget that aimed to dazzle publicly. Disney stuck to the line that these updates were part of a broader initiative to keep fairy tales fresh for the 21st century. Privately, however, Iger and others worried that straying far from the original storyline could backfire. Sure enough, once footage and promotional images leaked, the online debate exploded.
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. Yeah.
Social media users dissected every new detail. Snow White's costume, the rumored changes to the dwarfs, the glimpses of a storyline that may or may not revolve around a prince. Zegler's interviews added more fuel to the fire. At one point, she described the original prince as a borderline stalker, vowing that this time around, Snow White wouldn't be reduced to a damsel waiting for romance. Proponents of this perspective argued it was a healthier message for young viewers. Meanwhile, traditionalists felt that, while a heroine's independence is admirable, labeling the classic central love story as creepy was unnecessarily combative.
It's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024.
As opening weekend approached, skepticism grew. The tension peaked when Disney screened the film for select industry insiders. Their feedback was mixed, with some praising the bold reinterpretation and others walking away bewildered by how drastically the tone had shifted. The mainstream press quickly caught wind of these test screenings, and the coverage wasn't exactly glowing. Tabloid headlines zeroed in on conflict rumors. Was the production overshadowed by a star who disrespected the very source material she was hired to honor? Then, Bob Iger made his fateful admission in a press conference. Yes, the Snow White script had undergone major tweaks because of Zegler's input. For a media-savvy giant like Disney, it was an uncharacteristically candid confession. Typically, studios prefer to frame such decisions as collaborative efforts among scriptwriters, producers, and directors. Rarely do they single out an actor as the driving force behind big creative overhauls. As soon as the quote spread online, the narrative shifted. Now, it wasn't just about Disney modernizing a classic. It became Disney caved to an actor's demands. Too many fans. That felt like a betrayal of the brand's storytelling legacy.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. Super weird. So we didn't do that this time.
The negative buzz crescendoed with the film's actual release. Ticket sales lagged behind projections, confounding executives who had banked on the unstoppable allure of the Disney name. Critics were polarized. Some appreciated the updated perspective on female empowerment, but many found the overall result jarring. Reviewers commented that, while the production design sparkled, the script felt torn between paying homage to 1937 and reinventing 1937. Families walked out uncertain if they'd seen a faithful remake or a complete deconstruction. No matter where one fell in the debate, the movie was overshadowed by controversies swirling around Zegler's interviews and Disney's admission that it had shaped the story around her input. As disappointment seeped through the box office numbers, Disney scrambled to minimize the damage. The studio arranged a series of high-profile interviews for Ziegler, culminating in an appearance on The View. This segment was supposed to restore confidence by portraying the lead actress as thoughtful, respectful of the original, and simply eager to bring Snow White into modern age. The plan backfired. Ziegler veered off the studio-approved talking points and ventured into personal politics, triggering immediate pushback from the show's host and, soon after, a social media firestorm.
As an actor, you don't get to dictate anything. You don't get to dictate if a film actually happens. You don't get to dictate when it is shot, how it is shot, if you can ever speak about it to the public. You are simply just there to show up.
Producers, sensing the conversation had spiraled beyond salvageable territory, cut the segment short. By the end of that day, videos of the segment, along with behind-the-scenes rumors of a heated exchange off-camera, dominated entertainment. News headlines. Disney found itself at a crossroads. Keep propping up a star who would become a lightning rod for controversy, or quietly pivot away and let the film's numbers speak for themselves. Ultimately, the damage was done for every viewer who appreciated the changes. At least as many felt Disney had tampered with a masterpiece at the behest of an actor who didn't seem to respect the original film. Things worsened when industry analysts began labeling the film box office poison. More bluntly, they pinpointed the fiasco around Rachel Zegler's remarks and Bob Iger's too-candid admission as the chief reason behind the adaptation's downfall. Meanwhile, co-star Gal Gadot tried to distance herself, offering only the bare minimum of promotional support. Rumors swirled that even she had concerns about the radical changes, but chose not to voice them publicly. Amid this uproar, Bob Iger's standing at Disney became precarious. He'd already been fielding criticism on other fronts, and the Snow White debacle only heightened calls for a leadership change. The meltdown on The View, followed by the film's underperformance, strengthened the narrative that Iger had lost control over the company's creative direction. It wasn't long before discussions about his potential departure turned into reality.
All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. But it's one of those things. So true, it's an inner journey that she goes on to find her true self.
In the aftermath, Disney executives were left dissecting how so many miscalculations converged, and actors with strong opinions, a cherished classic, and a public increasingly vocal about brand fidelity. Some argued that Disney should have doubled down on the classic retelling, with only gentle adjustments that wouldn't fundamentally alter the tone. Others insisted that the story needed modernization, just not so aggressively, and certainly not by publicly crediting one actor for the changes. The end result was a divisive adaptation that appealed to neither traditionalists nor modern audiences, en masse. As the dust settled, Bob Iger stepped down amid internal and external pressures, marking a significant leadership shift at a company for which he had long been synonymous. The fiasco left behind a bruised corporate ego, a film that failed to meet commercial goals, and a reminder that even Disney, a titan of entertainment, cannot take its audience's loyalty for granted. Rachel Zegler, for her part, remains an undeniably talented performer, but her involvement in this saga taught Hollywood a tough lesson about how quickly public perception can sour when creative choices come across as dismissive of beloved source material.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
Well, who the hell are you to say all of Andrew's scenes could get cut? Like, who are you?
Looking ahead, Disney seems poised to reevaluate its approach to live-action remakes. The brand's identity rests in nostalgia, yet the corporate drive to keep pace with modern sensibilities is unlikely to disappear. Future projects will likely tread more cautiously, either by ensuring that modern updates align seamlessly with cherished elements, or by setting clear boundaries about how much an individual star can reshape the narrative. After all, with so much at stake, billions in revenue, a storied legacy, and a worldwide fan base, Disney can't afford another fiasco at the scale of Snow White. In the end, the cautionary tale boils down to this: sometimes the simplest question, do we really need to change a classic so drastically, deserves a lot more deliberation than it gets. Because once you open the door to modifying a cultural icon, you invite not just fans, but critics, trolls, and social media commentators of every stripe to voice their disapproval. And if the changes are traced back to a single star's influence, the backlash can grow exponentially, making for a corporate nightmare, one that, as we've seen, can topple even the mightiest of CEOs.